Winning isn't a title. It's not applause. It's not having more followers, more likes, or a louder voice. Real winning happens in silence. When no one's watching, it's in the choices you make when no one else is around. We often think of winning as something that happens on a grand stage. But what if I told you that the real champions win in the morning, before their feet hit the ground? They win by choosing purpose over pressure, growth over comfort, consistency over intensity. Winning is a daily mindset, not a destination. Too often, people imagine winning as a moment, a finish line to cross, a medal to hang, a title to claim. But real winning isn't the final outcome. It's a way of thinking, living, and showing up every single day. It's not a place you arrive at, it's a process you live through. When we attach winning only to results, we rob ourselves of the progress happening in the present. We overlook the invisible victories, choosing to get up when it's easier to stay down, pushing forward when it would be easier to quit, showing kindness when you feel unseen. Every day gives you a choice. You can react to life or you can lead your life. Winning starts the moment you wake up and choose to act with purpose. It's choosing discipline when it's inconvenient. It's showing up even when no one applauds. It's focusing on the things you can control, your effort, your attitude, your integrity. That's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. The winners aren't waiting for some big moment to prove themselves. They are proving themselves in the small, quiet moments that no one sees. There are days when the scoreboard doesn't reflect your effort. You may not hit the goal, you may not get the praise. But if you stayed true to your values, if you gave your best when it wasn't easy, then you've won. Because winning is not measured by what the world sees. It's measured by your commit to becoming the person you said you would be. It's in honoring the promise you made to yourself when no one was watching. When you adopt a mindset of daily winning, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for motivation, for permission, for the perfect time. You begin acting, you begin choosing habits that align with your long-term vision. You begin understanding that setbacks aren't failures, they're feedback. Every loss teaches, every struggle sharpens, every moment, even the ones that break you, are part of the shaping. And when you understand that winning is a mindset, you no longer fear failure. You no longer chase validation. You begin to find fulfillment in the pursuit itself. You start to recognize that the act of trying, the discipline of effort, the integrity of consistency, that is the win. You begin to define success on your own terms, and that shift changes everything. The world may never fully see the battles you've fought or the mountains you've climbed internally, but you'll know. You'll know that you're winning, not because you've reached a certain place, but because you've chosen who to be, how to live, and how to show up, today and every day. Consistency in small habits builds long-term success. It's not the grand gestures or the once-in-a-while bursts of effort that define greatness. It's the quiet repetition of simple actions, day in and day out, that shape your future. Most people underestimate the power of the small. They believe success demands massive action or sudden transformation. But the truth is, real change happens gradually. It begins with a decision and grows with consistency. The beauty of small habits is that they are sustainable. Waking up 30 minutes earlier, reading a few pages a day, practicing gratitude before sleep, these actions may seem insignificant in isolation. But when repeated consistently over time, they compound. The same way water shapes rock through persistence, small habits shape your identity and determine your outcomes. Each time you show up and follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to become. People often quit not because they can't succeed, but because they don't see immediate results. The early stages of building habits feel invisible. You go to the gym for a week, and nothing changes. You start writing and the words feel clumsy. You meditate, but your mind wanders. And yet, underneath the surface, a foundation is being built. Small efforts repeated daily are far more powerful than intense effort applied occasionally. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates mastery. Long-term success is not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about showing up on the days you'd rather not. It's about brushing off the excuses and doing the work anyway. So, there is strength in routine, discipline in repetition, and confidence in showing yourself that you can be relied upon. Each time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you build trust, and self-trust is the root of all growth. Consistency also creates clarity. When you engage in small habits regularly, you begin to understand what works for you. and what doesn't. You refine, adjust, and evolve, not by waiting for a breakthrough, but by being deeply engaged in the process. The habit becomes the path leads to transformation. What starts as effort becomes second nature. What begins as structure becomes part of your identity. There is no shortcut to success. There is no magic formula. But there is a clear truth. Those who commit to consistent habits, no matter how small, will always outperform those who rely on bursts of motivation. Success belongs to those who stay the course, who embrace the boring, who understand that the most powerful change often begins with the simplest action, repeated without applause, until the results speak for themselves. Self-discipline and intention are more powerful than motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes with moods, energy levels, and circumstances. One day, you feel inspired, ready to conquer the world, and the next, you feel stuck, tired, or overwhelmed. If your actions rely solely on motivation, your progress will be inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. That's why self-discipline and intention matter more. They are steady. They are reliable. They don't ask how you feel, they ask what you committed to. Self-discipline is the decision to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's the internal voice that says, I made a promise to myself, and I'm going to keep it. That's where real power lives. The discipline creates structure. It eliminates the chaos of indecision. It builds confidence through follow-through. When you rely on discipline, you stop waiting, you start doing. You don't need to feel ready. You only need to remember your reason. Intention gives discipline its direction. It's not about grinding blindly or working nonstop. It's about aligning your actions with your values. Intention says, this is why I'm doing it. It gives meaning to the effort and clarity to the journey. When you operate with intention, you stop chasing distractions. You stop doing things just because others expect them, or because it looks impressive. You begin making choices that are aligned with your goals, your growth, and your integrity. Most people get trapped in a loop. They wait for motivation to strike, and when it doesn't, they stall. Days become weeks, and dreams stay frozen in thought. But those who cultivate discipline and intention don't wait. They set the alarm, even when they're tired. They take the next step, even when it's hard. They remind themselves of the bigger picture when the process gets boring or uncomfortable. You were uncomfortable. And because of that, they move forward while others stand still. There's a reason the most successful people in any field prioritize routine. They've learned that feelings are unreliable, but systems are not. You won't always feel like showing up. You won't always be inspired. But if you've built discipline and grounded it in intention, you'll keep moving. And that consistency, more than talent, luck, or bursts of energy, is what creates momentum and lasting impact. Self-discipline and intention are the foundation of excellence. They are what allow you to take control of your life, rather than be controlled by it. When motivation fades, and it always does, discipline steps in. And when that discipline is driven by a clear, intentional purpose, you become unstoppable. You don't just hope things get better. You make them better, one intentional act at a time. Emotional intelligence, listening, kindness, and reflection wins silently but deeply. In a world that often celebrates the loudest voices and the fastest results, emotional intelligence works quietly in the background, creating meaningful, lasting impact. It's not about dominance or control. It's about awareness, empathy, and connection. While others focus on being heard, emotionally intelligent people focus on truly hearing. They know that real influence doesn't come from forcing your opinion. It comes from understanding others first. Listening is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It's more than just staying quiet while someone speaks. It's about being fully present. Hearing not just the words, but the emotion behind them. It means suspending your urge to respond and instead trying to understand. People don't open up when they feel judged. They open up when they feel seen. When you listen deeply, you give people a sense of safety and respect. And that builds trust, which is the core of all strong relationships, whether personal or professional. Kindness, too, is a quiet superpower. It doesn't demand attention or applause. It's often unnoticed but never unfelt. A kind gesture, a supportive word, a willingness to be patient. These small actions ripple through people's lives in powerful ways. Emotionally intelligent people don't use kindness to get ahead. They use it because it's the right way to treat others. They understand that how you make people feel will be remembered long after. what you say or do. Reflection is where emotional intelligence turns inward. It's the ability to step back and examine your own reactions, your patterns, and your part in any situation. Instead of blaming or deflecting, emotionally intelligent individuals ask themselves, what could I have done differently? They don't run from discomfort. They use it to grow. Reflection is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the pause that prevents damage. It's the insight that leads to better choices next time. While emotional intelligence doesn't shout, it shapes culture. It builds teams that trust each other, families that communicate better, and individuals who know themselves more deeply. In leadership, emotional intelligence isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. A person who leads with empathy, patience, and clarity can motivate in ways that fear and force never can. They create environments where people thrive, not just survive. What makes emotional intelligence so powerful is its quiet nature. It doesn't need credit. It doesn't need to prove itself. But it changes conversations, mends conflicts, and strengthens bonds. It is felt in the calm after chaos, in the courage to apologize, and in the strength to listen even when your ego wants to speak. These are not soft skills, they are power skills. And those who master them may not always be the loudest in the room, but they are often the most respected and remembered. Growth lies in discomfort. Real change happens outside the comfort zone. It's a truth that's uncomfortable by nature because human instinct craves safety, predictability, and ease. We build routines and environments to feel secure, and while that creates stability, it rarely sparks transformation. Comfort zones are cozy, but they're also cages, soft, quiet, and invisible. They keep us where we've always been, even when we say we want more. The paradox is that everything we want, growth, strength, resilience, confidence, exists on the other side of discomfort. Discomfort is the signal that you're stretching. It's the feeling of newness, of being unsure, of not having all the answers. And that feeling is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're evolving. The first time you try something new, it feels awkward. The first time you speak up, you might tremble. The first time you set a boundary, it might feel selfish. But these are growing pains, not mistakes. They're evidence that you're pushing beyond what's familiar and safe. People often wait until they feel ready before they act, not realizing that readiness is a result, not a prerequisite. You become ready by doing the thing you thought you couldn't do. Each step you take into discomfort builds a new level of capacity. You start realizing that fear doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. It means lean in. It means there's something valuable on the other side. Discomfort also reveals your limitations, not to shame you, but to show you where to focus your effort. The weight feels heavy because it's building strength. The task feels hard because it's developing skill. If it were easy, you wouldn't change. The struggle is not a sign to quit. It's a sign you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You can't grow while avoiding discomfort. Avoidance keeps you stagnant. But when you choose to engage with discomfort, when you willingly enter spaces that challenge you, transformation begins. Discomfort creates resilience. When you consistently face hard things, you become less reactive and more adaptable. You stop fearing failure because you've learned it's part of the process. You stop shrinking in the face of challenges because you've built the emotional muscle to handle pressure. You gain confidence not from perfection, but from proving to yourself that you can survive what you once avoided. The truth is, no one becomes stronger by standing still. You won't discover who you really are until you step into the unfamiliar, the unpredictable, the uncertain. That's where the real work happens. That's where growth lives, not in repeating what's easy, but in doing what's difficult. Change doesn't come from waiting. It comes from walking into the fire and trusting that you'll come out wiser, braver, and more capable than you were before. Saying no and setting boundaries is essential to protect your focus and purpose. It's easy to fall into the trap of saying yes to everything, yes to every invitation, every favor, every demand on your time and energy. We often say yes out of fear, fear of disappointing others, fear of being judged, or fear of missing out. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values or goals, you are unconsciously saying no to something that does. Time and energy are finite, and without boundaries, they get drained by distractions, obligations, and other people's agendas. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They don't push people away. They help you decide what gets in and what stays out. They're a form of clarity, not cruelty. When you set clear boundaries, you define the space where you can grow, focus, and perform at your best. Saying no is not a rejection of people. It's a commitment to your priority. It's a decision to be intentional with your time instead of reactive to everyone else's needs. People who struggle with boundaries often find themselves overwhelmed and resentful. They give more than they have, stretch beyond their limits, and lose sight of their own goals in an attempt to please everyone around them. But people-pleasing is not generosity. It's self-abandonment. You cannot show up fully for others if you're constantly betraying yourself. Protecting your focus means protecting your energy, and that requires the courage to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. When you know your purpose, boundaries become easier to set. You begin to measure requests not by how urgent they sound, but by how aligned they are with what truly matters to you. You ask, does this move me closer to who I want to be? Does this support the mission I'm building? If the answer is no, then the answer must be no, even if it's difficult. Every yes should be an investment, not a reaction. Say no also models strength and clarity for others. It teaches the people around you how to respect your time, your energy, and your values. It may upset some, but it will attract those who understand your standards. You're not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You're responsible for maintaining them. And in doing so, you protect the space you need to do deep work, to rest, and to stay aligned with your purpose. Boundaries are an act of self-leadership. They allow you to say yes with full presence because you've said no with full clarity. When you practice the discipline of setting limits, you create the freedom to thrive. You move from reacting to choosing, from being stretched thin to standing strong, from chasing validation to owning your path. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about honoring yourself. And in that space of self-respect, your true focus and purpose are free to flourish. So if you're waiting for the perfect day to start winning, stop. The perfect day is today. Not because everything is easy, but because you are finally ready to lead yourself with intention, discipline, and purpose. Winning isn't something you chase. It's something you choose, moment by moment, action by action. It's not loud, it's not flashy. But it's consistent, it's powerful, and it's yours to own. Show up with courage, lead with integrity, and remember, the most meaningful victories often happen quietly, in the choices no one sees but you. That's how you win, not just once, but every single day.